What is going on to all my Euphoria fans out there, and happy Super Bowl Sunday, or should I say happy Super Euphoria Sunday? I probably should have thought of a better name than that, but what's going on? Elliot back again. The Super Bowl ain't gonna stop me from talking about one of my favorite shows on TV, and that is Euphoria Season 2, Episode 6, which was titled A Thousand Little Trees of Blood. What a perfect follow-up to last week's episode. We get some great aftermath with Rue, Maddy, Cassie, and Nate. He's just so goddamn evil. We get some first time interactions that I love. There is an issue I have with one moment in this episode involving Kat, but besides that, what a fantastic episode, and we're here to break it all down. But before we dive into the spoiler discussion, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, we are on the quest to 20,000 subscribers, so if you want to be a part of the awesome community, make sure you're subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as you can see on the screen now, if you enjoyed this spoiler discussion in Euphoria, well, make sure to give the video a thumbs up. It means a lot to me, but also share this review to all the Euphoria fans that you know out there that loves this show just as much as we do. But I want to take a quick moment to thank you all for the engagement of these reviews. It means a lot to me because there's so many great content creators covering this show. I've had them on our live after show, which we'll talk about here in a second. But the thing that means a lot to me is the comments are so well thought out. The way you all break down your thoughts on episodes is fantastic. The interaction you all have with each other means a lot. But the thing that really touches me, and is really what I built this channel on, the foundation, this is a safe space. And the fact that you all have that comfort level to share your personal connections to addiction, overcoming addiction, still dealing with addiction, abuse, and all the different subject matters the show tackles. It means so much that you all have that comfortability to share those stories, and it means a lot. So I thank you all, and I say that to say, let's keep that conversation going in the comments. Your pros, your cons, favorite moments, least favorite moments, of course, your theories for the weeks ahead. And again, if you have any personal stories, go ahead and share that with us in the comments. And again, from me to you, I appreciate you all. So before we dive into the episode, just a quick little plug. As you all know, 9:15 p.m. Central Time, myself and special guests I like to bring on, which I don't like to announce. I like to surprise you all. So you're going to want to tune in this Sunday, or tonight I should say, to see who's on tonight's panel. We have a live after show talking about the episode, diving deeper, interacting with you all. It's such a fun time. So I'm going to leave that link to the stream in the description. Click on it, come and join the conversation. So with all that being said, quick thoughts before we break it all down. What a great episode. This episode it gave us the aftermath, right? We see where Rue's at. We see where the three-way Cassie. Oh, we got so much to talk about with Nate in this episode, and obviously Maddy, and the stuff with Jules, and what we get with Nate, the interactions between Ali and Gia, and there is an issue I have with Kat that we'll talk about, but minus that, this was a great episode. This is the Euphoria I love. This is the storytelling I love. This is the acting I love, and the direction I love. This was a fantastic episode. With my one criticism that I'll bring up, but besides that criticism, this was a great episode in my opinion. But hey, again, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's get into this review and breakdown. Starting off with, as I mentioned last week, who's walking in that front door? Is it Rue? Is it someone else? And I don't watch the after conversation Euphoria because I have to prep the after show when they're displaying all that stuff. So I guess Sam Levinson had said that it was Rue that walked in the door. I didn't know that until obviously this moment, which is good to see. But I was kind of worried about Rue, right? Because my thought was, there's probably some police looking for Rue, running from the police last week, breaking and entering, taking people's jewelry and money, and getting into the car accident, breaking, public property of people's backyards. I'm like, there's probably cops looking for her. And I don't know if Sam's going to tackle that. Like, I don't know if they're like, how would they find Rue besides, I guess security cameras and like light cameras. I guess they could find her, but I don't know if they're going to address the ramifications of last week's episode or what she did, but neither here nor there. Zendaya. What a performance last week. And that continues in this episode, as just seeing the struggle and the pain she's going through, the withdrawals, and she's trying to open that Jolly Rancher wrapper. Zendaya is so fantastic in this role, and it's so, it makes sense why you cast Zendaya, because just seeing her as an actress, she just has this kind of vulnerability that you want to root for her, even though Rue does some incredibly terrible things. And again, we don't make excuses for what happened to her dad. It is very sad, it's very tragic, and all that stuff comes with it, but it doesn't give her any excuses for her behavior. But it's like at the bottom of my heart, I just want her to come out of this, and it's looking like things are looking up. Of course, we'll talk about the ending, but again, just the struggle, the pain was conveyed so beautifully in this opening sequence here as we go back to Rue And this is something I want to talk to you all about, just in regards to the conversation she brings up with just her being why she likes going to the hospital. And it just made me think, it is so true that we go to the hospital and there's doctors and nurses that take care of us and don't even know who we are, right? And paralleling that to our loved ones that do stick through the tough times, that do stick with us at the lowest points, as we see Leslie and Gia. They're there for her, right? Even with all the lies, the abuse that Rue puts on them, the physical and verbal abuse, the gaslighting, all the different stuff she has done to her sister and mom. It is so beautiful to see them stick by her side at her lowest point. And we even get a flashback, which I was like, oh, are we diving into who Leslie is? But they don't really give her like a full backstory. But we do know that she grew up in a church. But more importantly, the thing that she took away from, growing up in a Christian church, forgiveness. And she carried that on to her youngest daughter in Gia, because they are there, they're forgiving her. And we'll talk about Gia. There ain't nothing wrong with being upset, right? And we'll get into that conversation. But again, I just love that we're getting more of the perspective of, yes, we see Rue struggle in the addiction and the pain and all the stuff that she inflicts on herself and to others, but also, what does it mean for the other people, her loved ones, in particular Gia and Leslie? And I love that the show is shining a light on what it does to that person, right? So I love that we get those moments there between those characters, and it's just such an intimate moment that I really appreciate it. But going back to Rue, thank you, Rue, for realizing how rude and how mean those comments were that you made to Ali, which, again, I can't say it enough. The more Coleman D'Amico, the better. He's such a fantastic actor. She admits how she regrets those comments that she made to Ali from the last time they spoke to each other. We even see that he was still checking on her, right? And he didn't make a big deal about it. He just drove by, make sure she was safe and all that stuff. So again, Ali, what an incredible person. But I love this line that Rue says in regards to, there's so much truth to this line when she's referring to Ali, reducing someone's life for a moment. That's one of my favorite lines of this episode. And it has, like I said, it holds so much truth. And in today's culture, cancel culture, we're all human beings. We've all made mistakes. We're going to continue to make mistakes. But to hold someone accountable and to hold someone in reducing their life and their, them changing just to one, bad decision is so much truth. Again, that's one of my favorite lines of this episode. There's many other great bars that was in this episode, but I'm assuming you all are big fans of Euphoria like I am. You've seen the special with Rue and Ali. If you haven't, do yourself a favor and watch that hour special. It's literally them two at a diner. It's a diner that we've seen in this show before, having a conversation about many of things. Highly recommend it. Performances off the charts. But if you haven't seen that, go do yourself a favor and watch that if you haven't. I'm pretty sure you all are caught up to speed because we all love Euphoria. But Rue calls Ali and she has that conversation with him, and he's such a good person because we talked about forgiveness. He's been in this moment. He's been in his lowest point, so he knows what Rue's going through, and he forgives her, which I love that moment there. And she's able to open up the wrapper, too, which kind of just, I guess, speaks to just she can let that monkey off her back, right? And she's kind of beginning this road of forgiveness for everyone else. We don't get it in this show, but I assume soon to be apologizing to, everyone that she's affected, whether it be Lexi and Jules, maybe even Elliot from muffing his ass last week, which we don't get Elliot at all in this episode, but we'll talk about Jules a little bit later. But it seems at this point, Rue is on the path to coming clean and going to be clean, and she's on this forgiveness tour. I hope it lasts. I really do. But again, we'll talk about kind of that last moment of the episode, which kind of really broke my heart. But again, Ali, such a good person, such a good man. He comes to cook for the family, and they're having a family dinner. And I love this little bit of levity and the joke that he brings up. Like, Rue, I'm going to need you out the kitchen. Same with you, Mama, with obviously all the stuff that she's been going through the last few days with detoxing and, what comes with all that stuff. So, and just again, Ali, mentioned a couple weeks ago, Ali and Leslie, is there something there? Even if there's not, I just love the mentorship that Ali provides her and kind of that father figure that she obviously misses and hasn't had since her father passed away. So again, Ali coming through in the clutch. And again, the more Coleman D'Amico, the better. And this moment here, I mentioned the first time interactions. This interaction here, I know I wanted it. I didn't know how much I needed it, and that is Gia and Ali. And again, it goes back to what I was saying about having that perspective for the people that are there for Rue at her lowest points, and particularly her mom and her sister. And he tells her, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry with your sister. And again, it was a small little moment, but it has so much implications. It has so much depth in that conversation regarding, again, how is that mindset? How is that person that is helping that person at their lowest point? So again, very small scene, but I love that moment that we get with them. We get another moment with them a little bit later. And Gia, she's always great. Stormy, and again, Komen and Miko, more, better, please. But go ahead and leave your thoughts on these opening moments and everything that we just covered. Let me know your highs, your lows, and everything in between. But all right, time to get to this mofo that we haven't seen in a whole last week, and I'm talking about the one, the only, Nate Jacobs, who is clueless to what's went down between Cassie and Maddy. You know, he's on a high. He's feeling good about himself. He's like, you know what? That 18-year battle that I had with my dad, I came out on top. He's gone. I'm on top. I'm the man in the house. He's on a high horse in this episode. And he does some stuff. Whew, let's get into it as he's talking to his mom, who's definitely loosening up since Kyle's not in the home. I mean, we got Masha. She's, listening to my Levin. She's smoking. She's making a Bloody Mary. I mean, she's letting loose. She's letting loose like her Kyle was 2 weeks ago. But not to jump too far ahead, but I do want to focus on this moment because this is a first time interaction between son and mom. We really haven't seen, correct me if I'm wrong, besides like quick little cuts of, Nate and Masha. This was the first like in-depth conversations they've ever had in this show. And it was a pretty interesting conversation. And I love that they cut this conversation with what Maddy was going through in her conversation with her mom. But let's focus a little bit on Nate and his mom here as she goes into the conversation. Number one, she's allowing him to drink just like Susie's. Like, these parents in this show are just ridiculous. But neither here nor there, they discuss how Nate's hatred towards his dad has kind of bled over to like his everyday life, to his interactions with anyone. And he's like, oh, that's not true. I just hate my dad. It's like, no, bro, you hate everyone. And even if you don't subconsciously know it, it bleeds into every single relationship that you've had with Maddy, with Cassie, with, Chris McKay, with all the people we've seen him interact with. It's just like inherently within him, this hatred has bled over to other relationships. So I love that his mom pointed that out to her. One of good moments that she brought up in this conversation, as he believes things with Maddy are officially off the table, which what he does to Maddy, I hope that is the case, and we'll get into that when it gets there. But we get into his mom talking about, oh, I'm so glad that you're done with her because she looks like she's the type of girl that will want to have a baby and just have the baby just to spite you, which I ain't gonna lie, I can see Maddy doing that. Again, Masha was speaking some truth here. Minus this moment here, she's talking about, oh, what's up with the blonde? Obviously talking about Cass, and she goes into how he tells her about, oh, I slept with, there was Maddy's best friend. He's like, oh, of course, why would you do that, son? And she's, talking about that stuff, and she goes into this conversation about like, I'm so glad you stuck up for me that night at the carnival. And then he gets into like, even though you had to choke her to get her out of the way, he's like, I didn't choke her, mom. He's still in denial. It's like, bro, you don't even get me started on Nate and his denial, right? But, he's talking about how he didn't do it, and she's just on one. She is definitely on one. She is drunk as a skunk, very similar to her soon-to-be ex-husband, I assume, with Cal. But more into the conversations, and again, the depth in this conversation. One of my favorite moments between these two characters, she talks about his upbringing, right? And how he was the sweetest, nicest. I'm like, who, Nate? That's the Satan spawn? But she talks about how that was her little boy, and he had so much joy and so much love, and what went wrong. I thought in that moment he was going to reveal what went wrong. And again, not making excuses. I don't like Nate. The actor, Jacob Elordi, he's great in the role because I hate him. But I don't condone any of his actions whatsoever. But again, we know as an audience, that boy's effed up. Because at the age of 9, I want to say, he's found out what his dad does in his free time. So mentally, the hatred towards dad makes so much sense. The hatred towards, the way he handles his relationships with people kind of makes sense. Again, not an excuse, but it makes sense. So I thought in that moment he was going to actually reveal, okay, mom, this is what happened. At 9 years old, I saw my dad having sex with all types of people, and I didn't know how to react to it besides being angry. So he didn't say that. Maybe he will in the future, but I thought it was just such a interesting moment how she saw Nate at his sweetest moments, but then she saw her son become this despicable person that he came to be. And she even says, you're more flawed than your father. So again, first time interaction. We got 2 this episode, and I thought both of them were fantastic in my opinion. But let's get to Nate a little bit later because we have to catch up with Maddy. We have to catch up with Kat. And Ethan makes an appearance this episode as we learned that, again, Cassie has been calling Nate, I think he said 38 times. But Maddy, a big old 0 as she's sitting in her bed with that tape, which we'll get into the tape later in this review. But she's calling Kat, and I'm like, Maddy, the comparison here is not the same at all. As she says, comparing what she learned about her best friend is like when parents find out that their kids who, shot up a school didn't know that their kids were, in that state of mind. I'm like, a little bit of a stretch there, Maddy. But moving on, we see Kat never trusted Cass. She says she seems like the person that would sleep with someone's best friend. But the question at hand, as Maddie's like, oh, I want to murder her. But she brings up the question, what do we do with Nate? We'll talk about Nate here in a second, but let's focus a little bit on the small minuscule scene between Kat and Ethan, which was my least favorite part of this episode. So we see Kat. She tells Ethan, oh, I have this terminal brain disorder. I'm not going to be able to live. I don't want you to deal with it. I'm like, Kat, really? Are you being serious? I thought that she was saying she had a terminal brain issue, like saying, I don't know why my brain can't put together the pieces of why I can't be with you. You're such a nice guy on paper, but I can't figure it out. I thought that's the route she was going, but no, she was just playing games. And shout out to Ethan, who hasn't gotten much to do at all this season. He's like, calls her out in her BS, and she's been hanging around Maddy way too much. She like flips the table on him like, oh, are you breaking up with him? He's like, not really, but I mean, the way you're handling this and the way you've been kind of handling this relationship so far, which we haven't seen at all this season, he's like, yeah, let's go ahead and break things off. And she's like, okay, bye. He walks away. Shout out to Ethan. Go get your Lexi before she gets caught up with Fez. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. But it's in this moment that I did not like this scene at all. Nothing against the acting. It's the handling of Kat's story. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. The rumor has it that, Barbie and Sam butted heads because she didn't like the direction her character was going, which rightfully so is trash, if I'm being honest with you all. So I think there's a little bit of levity and there's a little bit of validity in that, those rumors. I think it's very much to be true. But my issue with this scene is it feels like it's so not Kat to like make up that dumbass, stupid lie and to handle it the way that it is. Because I think about Season 1, Episode 8 finale at the winter dance. If I'm the one that's going to be hurt, if this relationship ends up bad, I want to be the one to be hurt, which ends up being the case. But it was just underwhelming. It was just so poorly executed. I might be the only one that feels that way. I just feel like the Kat storyline this season, and I've said it last week, I hope that Kat breaks things off with Ethan, which it does happen here. It just was poorly handled, in my opinion. This was my least favorite scene in this entire episode, and one of my least favorite, disappointing plots so far is how they've handled Kat. Let me know if I'm wrong, if you all feel the complete opposite, you're enjoying it, you think it's well fleshed out, or if you're in my, the same boat as me, let me know your thoughts on that. But I hated that. I don't say hate, that's a big word. I really dislike the handling of the Ethan and Kat relationship, especially the way they're handling Kat so far this season. But going into this conversation here, let's check in with Cassie, who is a mess in this episode, and we're checking in with Lexi and Fez in a little bit here, but we see Lexi's mom is telling her, put the knives in the bushes, baby, because we know your sister, she's a very, very sensitive individual. As we see, Lexi is starting to second thought her play that she has coming up pretty soon, which I assume might be next week's episode, if not the finale. And we see again Cass yet again in a bathtub blowing up Nate's phone. She loves bathtubs this season, especially when it comes to Nate. But moving on, we see this back and forth between Cassie. Again, Sydney Sweeney is fantastic in this season. The back and forth conversation they have, and it's just like, Cassie, do you not hear yourself? Yeah, they weren't together, but it doesn't give you the right to sleep with your best friend's boyfriend. As the mom, Susie, points out, it's the principle, dear. And the moment where she's like, I know you don't have any, you don't think I have any self love for myself. She said, no, I didn't say that. It's like, you don't have to, Mom. You could say it with your, with less words and just the way you act around me. Again, the acting from Sydney Sweeney. I feel so bad for Cassie in this moment, but it's just like Fez says something a little bit here that meant a lot for that character, which is sometimes you got to get hurt to learn your lesson. I just want her to get hurt first she can learn her lesson, because she's making some terrible mistakes in this episode. And so far this season, she's taking a corkscrew to her wrist, and her and her sister have the conversation that she's like, oh, that's why you snitched on Fez, because you slept with Nate at that point. And she's just like, I can't believe you are in love with this guy, Nate, who's been making fun of you for most of our lives. And now you remember that line where she has the conversation about, oh, you think Maddy's crazy where I'm crazier. Well, she gets pretty crazy and pretty mean, if I'm being honest here, when she's talking to her sister Lexi and telling telling her, you talk about me, why don't you talk about you and how you handle your best friend Rue? You don't have the guts to let her through. And I'm thinking to myself, Cassie hasn't been making a lot of sense lately, but that to me hit me on a level, because I'm like, it is so true, and I might be the only one that thinks this or have dealt with this. There are moments in my life that I recollect I have sometimes had more sympathy, more forgiveness, more of an understanding from strangers and friends more than I do my own family. Why is that? I don't know why. Let me know if you all have that same type of experiences where, again, you could be more compassionate to a complete stranger, to your best friend, than you are your mom, your dad, your brother. Again, every case is different. You might have had a bad relationship with them, but it's just like, yeah, that is a little bit of truth that Cassie is speaking in that moment. So again, she's been off her rocker this whole season, but she's speaking a little bit of truth, at least to me, in that moment. And let me know your thoughts on that. But what do they call them? Flexi is the name that you all have created for Fez and Lexi. They finally share screen time together since episode 2 or 3. It's been a couple weeks, but we see that she's over, having a conversation about the advice on what to do with this play. And he's like, hey, I know one thing, you need to put in that scene when I whoop Nate's ass. I'm like, yeah, you do, Lexi. That's going to be the crowd scene, the scene of the year if you put that in your play. But again, them having a conversation, and we see, her perspective of this play is a group of girls kind of growing out of their friendship, which is, Fez relates that to a fantastic classic film. I knew there's a reason I love Fez. The guy has great taste in movies. He talks about how that compares to Stand By Me, and they have a date night, a movie date night of all, which again, I'm a movie fan, so I love movie date nights, man. My man Fez and Lexi, they look so great. But unfortunately, that look that they have going might not last much longer, as they're holding hands, they're singing a song together, having a great moment. As Faye makes her way to the garbage, speaking of garbage, her boyfriend here, as he tells her he's going to cooperate with the cops and pretty much snitch on the mouse situation. And the way I see it playing out, things ain't going to look too good for our boy Fez. I think he's going to take the fall for killing Mouse, because obviously he doesn't want Ashtray to have, even though he's like 12, he wouldn't go to jail, but he would go to juvie, and they would probably, obviously, the family would be broken up. So I think that's where things are headed, unfortunately, or maybe worse. Maybe they're just going to bust into Fez's house and just start, I don't know, man, because we know Ashtray, if the cops come in, he might start blasting off. And I don't, what I'm saying is, I don't think it's going to end well for our boy Fez and Ashtray, which breaks my heart. But let me know your thoughts on all that. But, oh, man, this scene here. Let's check in with Nate. Let's check in with Maddy. Ooh, this scene, as Nate at this point, he doesn't care what's going on with his dad. He can care less if he ever sees him again, but he cares about the family business. That might be the future he might look into. That's on the top of his mind as he goes into Cal's belongings. He sees that Cal left him a note saying, "You're the man in the house now," and leaves the family gun to Nate, which I'm like, that is a recipe for disaster. A little bit of a funny moment here as we're going to check in with Jules and Elliot, but Rue's like, no, F them. I don't care about them right now. Let's check back in with Maddy. I thought that was so funny, which, by the way, I don't know if you all know, just a quick little side tangent. Shout out to Hunter and Dominic. They're dating in real life, so I guess I'll take back everything I said about the Rue, Elliot, and Jules situation. They're meant to be, right? No, I think it's really interesting that they're dating, because I said it a couple weeks ago, their chemistry is off the charts, and I don't know if they were dating when they filmed this, but the chemistry seems to be there, and again, congratulations to them. But back to it here, as Maddy is depressed, she's heartbroken because she feels like her friendship with Cassie has been a lie this whole time. And speaking of lie the whole time, they zoom in on the camera, on the clock camera, and there's a camera in the clock, so we know that Samantha's been looking at Maddy, which is kind of strange. That she's just a girl having fun with her wardrobe, but I'm like, that was weird that she's looking in on her and didn't mention anything when she's trying on her clothes. But let's talk about Samantha here, who, she says to Maddy, let's get drunk and go into the pool. She conveys in her past in college that she was the cast in the situation, and she feels bad, and she never talked to her friend. And just that conversation was very interesting to me, because number one, to me, this is future Maddy talking to younger version of Maddy. Like, they're so parallel to each other, and I think that's why Maddy looks up to her so much. Remember, I thought that there was going to maybe be a sexual relationship between the two. Who knows if it goes down that route? But I really enjoyed those conversations between those two, and how Maddy kind of heard that perspective from her older self, right, in a certain extent. But the shot here between seeing Nate driving to Jules' house, who we'll talk about, and he has the gun with him, and then parallel that to the shot where we see that Maddy has a tape with her. And I thought that, to me, I symbolized that scene as like they're both weapons, right? One obviously can kill people, hurt people, and the other one not to display that tape. That can destroy lives in a certain way. So I love that shot of how they kind of parallels those two things there. But this scene here has to be some top tier Euphoria scenes to me in the history of Euphoria. Like the tension. Let me just get into the scene here. Nate's in Maddy's room. We all know Nate finds his way into people's houses and people's belongings like it's a cup of tea. There's nothing to him, right? He's watching Maddy change, and very creepily, the tension in this scene was perfect. I literally mean perfect. Nate is truly, he's always been like so irredeemable for me, but more so than ever. He's talking to Maddy about the tape, and she's like, oh, I don't have the tape. And then he takes that gun, takes the bullets out, and plays, Russian roulette, and pretends he does, puts the gun to her head, then puts the gun to his head and proceeds to, pull the trigger. And you talk about dark, twisted, scary, the acting, the music, the choice of music, literally a perfect scene in my opinion as far as like thrilling, compelling, drama, messy, toxicity, all displayed beautifully in this scene. And again, Nate has already been he's my least favorite character in the best way possible. Like again, Jacob Elordi, he plays the character great, but man, the guy is just despicable. He is despicable. We see Nate again playing the game of Russian roulette. He's like, oh, she tells him on the tapes, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Maddy, blah, blah. She's broken. I think, again, I go back to Fezco. Sometimes you have to get hurt. Sometimes people deserve to get hurt so they can learn a lesson. I truly hope Maddy learns her lesson, and she is done with Nate at this point. Let me know if you all think that's the case, or will she eventually come running back to him at some point? I hope not, but let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But time to catch up with Nate as he is making a call, not to his dad, and damn sure ain't the Ghostbusters, but Jules. I've been saying this for weeks. Are we going to get the Jules and Nate resolution or get some type of conversation between those two? We get it right here, ladies and gentlemen, as Nate tells her he's outside. He texts her, hey, it's about you. It's about my dad. It's about tape. Come out. She grabs a box cutter. Smart move on Jules, because you can never trust that mofo, as he gets into apologizing to her and then goes into everything that went on with Tyler and why he did that, because he was protecting his dad, even though he shouldn't have done it. He would take it all back if he could. He goes into the tape and the schematics, and like, I don't know if there's a backup copy, which you never can trust Nate. I don't know, maybe Maddy made a backup copy, but he didn't tell her that Maddy knew, because she did ask him, does anyone else know about the tape? He says no, but yes, Maddy knows about it. But then she asks those logical questions. Why are you doing this, by the way, Nate? Are you some newfound nice guy? He's like, no, and I'm glad he addressed that, because he ain't nice at all. But he's like, I don't want to go into it. And she thanks him, and he says, he grabs her before she leaves and says, hey, everything I said, by the way, I meant that. And then Jules says, same. That scares me, because I hope Jules doesn't like truly forgive him. I hope she realizes he's the bottom of the barrel, trash, despicable person. I hope Jules doesn't give him another chance. What do you all think? Let's talk about it in the comments. But let's wrap up this episode. Again, this roller coaster called Nate. He does an evil thing with Maddy. He does a good thing with Jules. And now he takes it upon himself to make another phone call, which is, Cassie, hey, I'm outside. Get your bag. You're going to be slaying with me for a little bit. And oh yeah, I love you. Those were just the words she needed to hear as she packs her bag, looks at her mom, Susie. Susie, stop your daughter. Just grab her by the hair. Sit your ass down. She lets her make her own decision. Sometimes you got to get hurt to learn your lesson. Maybe Susie knew what she was doing in that moment. We see Masha looks at, they wave at each other. She goes in the room. She starts pushing Nate, and, that doesn't last long as he kisses her and hugs her, and they're now, and Cassie, someone help her. They're in love, I guess, or maybe it's more one-sided. Jules watches the tape in the episode. We go back to the great family dinner, and Rue, she wants to get clean. She wants to go to rehab, and I think, when she says, I want to come back, and I want to come back to apologize, I think that she really means that in that moment. She wants to get clean. She wants to apologize to everyone. And again, I love Coleman Domingo. I love Ali as he talks to Gia. As she, how do you feel about this, Gia? We'll see what happens, right? Because she said this before. Again, I love when Ali says to Leslie as he's leaving, show that girl some love. She needs it, because we all know Rue's a lot. And she, unfortunately, with her needing so much attention from her mom, it takes away from her attention from Gia. So again, Coleman D'Amico, always coming through as Ali. What a fantastic character. As Gia promises to tell Rue who she is when she gets back. And what a moment here. We end with Leslie calling rehab, and unfortunately it sounds like she's not going to be able to go in. And we hear Leslie just begging, pleading, please let my daughter in, because I think my daughter's going to kill herself as she's, sleeping in a bed with her sister. And we end the episode on that note there. Is that the case, ladies and gentlemen? Are we seeing Rue trying to get clean but ultimately can't and taking her own life? I hope that's not the route, because that would be very tragic. She seems to be on a good path, but we'll see what comes of it. But what a fantastic episode. The power in this episode, the reveals, the moments, the acting. What a powerful moment to kind of end on what I was, that rampage that Rue went on, to follow it up with here. It begs the question, though, what now with those drugs and Lori and that whole situation? What about Fez and the police now with Mouse and Maddy? Is she through with Nate? Let me know your thoughts on that, as well as is Jules through with Nate? And I don't want to neglect the fact that, I don't know if you all noticed in Maddy's room, it says, smile, you're on camera. Was she recording that interaction with Nate? Will she show that to the police and have Nate go to jail? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. And of course, what do you think about Kat? Are we going to get more of her? Her roaming around in the background, as well as where's Cal at? Let's talk about all that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, we're live right now, so click that link in the description. Come join the live discussion as we dive deep into the episode. Again, I appreciate every single one of you all for watching this review. Before you all leave, make sure if you haven't already to like, share, leave your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. There's a lot of you all. I love you that you all watch this review, but you don't subscribe. Come and join the community. It's a fun community, and it would mean a lot to me if you all can come and join it, because we're almost 20,000 subscribers, and it means a lot. So go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Thank you all for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like I said. Click the link right here. Come to join the live stream and check out my other content. We'll catch you all on the next video.